Senator, I want to go back a couple of days to a news conference that you held outdoors on Capitol Hill. You introduced us to a local entrepreneur by the name of Bill Butcher. He's the founder of Port City Brewing Company in your hometown of Alexandria, Virginia. I talked to him a couple of days ago. Actually, it was just yesterday. No counting. He gets his malt from Canada. He gets his bottle caps from Mexico. He gets his kegs, made of steel, by the way, from Germany. And he just lost his bottler because everyone's trying to avoid making cans with tariffed aluminum right now. Here's what he had to say about the impact on his company.
We've never seen anything like this. And I was talking to our bottle supplier a couple of weeks ago, and he was explaining to me that he doesn't have an answer for us. He's been in the business for 35 years, and he said he's never seen anything like this either. There's a lot that goes into our supply chain, and it's just really been frustrating the past few weeks because our entire supply chain has been thrown into chaos.
Senator, we saw about a half dozen companies pull their plans for IPOs today because of what's going on around us. At what point do we go to the next level and someone like Bill Butcher, God forbid, is telling a story about going out of business?
Yeah, it's awful. And it's kind of like this was totally predictable. I mean, if you listen to any economist, when you put on this level across the board tariffs, specific tariffs can be used as a tool, but not as an economic theory of the case. The last time I think we did this with Smoot-Hawley, and yes, America had a slight trade surplus, but the price was we ended up with the worst depression in our American history. And I just, I was with Bill. What was also with Bill the other day was we brought a guy from Richmond who makes bourbon, and he is basically seeing all his business dry up from Canada. And the fact is that, the Canadians rightfully are so angry at us that even if Trump were to pivot again, the bad feelings with our trading partners will be such that American products and goods, I think, are going to have a hard time reclaiming market share, even if Trump backs off.
Well, the Chinese don't seem to be too happy either, having slapped retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports at a rate of 34% today. Senator, at the same time, we've learned that President Trump is extending the deadline to reach a deal for the divestiture of the U.S. operations of TikTok for another 75 days. Do you believe that China is going to be willing to acquiesce to that in this current environment? And frankly, if they get to keep the algorithm, is it in keeping with the law you and your colleagues fought so hard to pass?
Kailey, thank you for bringing it. Let's get I know lots of other going on, but Donald Trump was the first guy to point out the problems with TikTok in about 2019. And I was reluctant to believe, but as chairman of the Intelligence Committee, I have seen the power of this app to be a propaganda tool that's frankly unmatched. Congress, 80% passed a law that says we don't want to get rid of TikTok. We just want to force a sale so the algorithm would end up in non-Chinese hands, a fairly low bar. I think the Biden administration, they should have pushed the negotiations quicker, but Trump gave what was partially illegal 75-day because the extension back on January 19th. We gave him the benefit of the doubt, but you adding this additional 75 days, that is completely against the law. And then, as you just pointed out, if they end up with a deal where the algorithm remains in Beijing, I got to tell you, I was a tech guy. I don't know how that would work. And I think the whole episode would be a scam. And I'm looking for my Republican friends who joined me in this effort to actually raise this concern. Our national security should not be used as a trading item in this tariff war. And that's what I was starting here. Well, you might lower the tariffs a little bit if China gave in. But I think when you mix the two, you have a recipe for disaster.